Hey guys, it's John back with another Anti-Guru video, and today is a double header essentially. We're doing AC and AD. So AC is new houses on houses and AD is new houses on houses, terraced and detached. Join me in the next couple of seconds where we'll be going through these new permitted development rights which come forward on the 1st of September. So they come into force on the 1st of September. Join me in a couple of seconds. Roll credits, and whilst they're rolling, like, comment, subscribe, and join the action on the Anti-Guru. Right. Now, whenever I talk about these things, I talk about the madness of King Boris, and I don't think there is a madder PD right or madder set of PD rights than these two. So I want to just describe what these permitted development rights are doing. What we're dealing with here is flats on top of houses. The permitted development right is precisely AC, new flats on top of terraced houses, and AD, new flats on top of detached houses. Don't ask me why you can't do this to a semi-detached house, or why you would even want to do it to a semi-detached house. I've no clue. But AC is for terraced and AD is for detached. Now, the restrictions, albeit what you're allowed to do, are broadly the same for both permitted development rights, which is why I'm dealing with these together. This allowance allows for the construction of new flats immediately above the topmost story of a terraced building or a detached building which is in use presently as a house. Now, I use the word house there pointedly. You cannot do this to an HMO. I've already been asked that question like 18 times. No, you cannot do this to an existing HMO. It has to be in use as a house. The permitted development rights allow you to add up to 2 additional stories on a 2 or more story house, single story on a single story house, up to other height limits. So, you know, terraced properties are limited in terms of the terrace run of the street anyway. And any of all engineering operations you need, safe access and egress, a stairwell cores, lift cores, and the construction of storage, waste, or any other ancillary facilities necessary to necessitate the conversion. Once we've got through that, the restrictions on these PD rights start to really bite in. So you are looking for properties built between the 1st of July 48 and the 5th of March 2018. Now, we've seen that restriction all the way through the permitted development rights. And that 1st of July 1948 restriction is incredibly clever. Firstly, it's the appointed day for planning law in the UK. So that's the day planning law came into force, which means you needed planning permission after the 1st of July 1948 in order to build anything. So the council should know when your property was built, either has planning permission or doesn't. It also takes out nearly all of the Victorian properties, anything Edwardian, anything built in the 30s, so all of the London expansion is effectively out. You're looking for post-war. The last date in that is also very clever. They're stopping you building a house and then adding stories to it by stealth. So you can't go and build a house and then add floors to it. That had to have been in place 2 years ago. You can't do this if the property's been extended by an additional story already. So you can't take an original single-story house, lump a floor onto it at some point in the past, and then want to lump more floors onto it. You can't do that, either through a planning permission or through the Class AA permitted development rights, which we did a video on a little way ago. There's no minimum story height here, but there is a theoretical maximum, because the maximum you can take a building of this type up to is 18 metres, which, if you do your maths, is about 6 stories. The theoretical maximum height of building that can accept this is therefore 5 stories, 5 plus a 1, and then a roof lumped on top. But there's no minimum story height here, so 1 to 5 albeit, again, I have no idea where you would find a 1950s, say, 1 to 5 story house in a terraced configuration, aside from housing estates. And that does build the question, who is this focused on? Can't be a heritage asset, area of outstanding natural beauty, wildlife protection area, Broads, so Norfolk is out. A national park, that's quite a big chunk of the country out of the game as well. Triple SI, safety hazard area, military explosive storage area, because we all know where they are. And anything within 3 kilometres of an aerodrome. That last one being very interesting because that takes out quite a lot of Spelthorne, Hillingdon, takes out quite a lot of Gatwick. Actually takes out quite a bit of Southampton as well. So that's all the knockoffs. What you can build is expansive. Now, again, these are the same whether it's detached or terraced. It doesn't matter. New floors on the front elevation for use as flats with those limits in roof and ceiling height. Very similar limits, 3 metres floor to ceiling height. And other limits apply as well. Go and have a look at the order yourself. Up to that maximum of 18 metres. You're not allowed to wrap the building in an exoskeleton. You're not allowed to do works on land not associated with the building, so you can't spread out over other people's land. You can't go beyond the front elevation or an elevation facing the highways. You can't extend, but you can extend in other areas. And the council can consider transport and highway impacts, air traffic and defence asset impact, contamination, flooding, design in relation to the appearance of the building alone, not the street scene again, natural light, amenity and protected views. And that is pretty much it. Now the other side of this, Class AD, is absolutely consistent with that it's nearly identical as far as what you can and can't do. But here is the thing, I think AD is the bigger candidate for it. AC, the terraced one, is a difficult one. It's a difficult candidate, isn't it? Because where are you going to find that 1950s to 2000s or thereabouts house that is capable of doing this? Because it's not just about can you do it, it's about can you do it. The permit development right says this is what you can do. You then move on to building control, onto structure, onto acceptability or otherwise, onto desirability, and you suddenly turn around and say, well, actually, should I even be turning around on this? Should I even be doing this? Here's the other thing about this that I'm sure the government hasn't considered, but I'm sure you guys will, and that is existing asset value. So for big detached houses built in the 50s, for example, if they're in central London, for example, their existing asset value is going to be absolutely through the roof, right? So you're buying a very expensive house and you're lumping 2 floors or thereabouts of flats on top of that very expensive house. No limits, incidentally, in terms of national standards, no affordable housing here. So no requirement for you to go out and set aside affordable housing or hit the national standard, albeit you absolutely should. All right? Future-proof yourself, people, please. But the big question is, what do you do to the existing asset value? You go from a big detached house to effectively a duplex. Think about what happens to that house that lives below it. Yeah, that ceases to be a house when you put flats on top. It turns into a duplex, a horrible 1950s maisonette, built in the 50s to house lots of people. I think the application of this is going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. I can't see many people doing this, to be fair. I think either their mortgage company will stop them when the mortgage company suddenly realises, shit, we're about to make an existing asset value lower. The asset that we've mortgaged is about to go through the floor. Or, more importantly, I think you're going to do your maths on GDV and suddenly realise how expensive these are. But guys, you tell me, you be the judge. Do you think these are a worthwhile set of permit development rights, or do you think the government is scraping the bottom of the barrel? I want you to tell me what you think. I'm going to do a broader reflection. We've done all of the new changes now, so I'm going to do a broader reflection on my next video, just looking at some of the inquiries that we've had already and where, you know, we're actually struggling to make these permitted development rights work in practice. Join me for the next one, and I'll see you later. Have a great day.